Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Book Talk with Kara. And today I have such a fun treat for you. I haven't done an ensemble interview for a while, and today I get to introduce you to three delightful friends of mine. I have Morgan Tarpley Smith, Lenora Worth, and Betsy St. Amant. And if you have not read any of their books or met these lovely women, you are going to really enjoy today's episode because we're going to talk about their Christmas collection, Christmas to Remember, which is set in Louisiana. But as we get started, I want to give each of them just a moment to introduce themselves. Lenora, we'll start with you because Lenora has, number one, she has amazing taste in shoes, but she has also written about 100 books, which I am just in awe of. And someday I aspire to get, heck, if I could get to 55, I'd be thrilled. So Lenora, could you tell us a little bit about yourself? And then we'll go to Betsy and Morgan.
Okay, well, yes, I have written over 100 books and novellas. They're commercial fiction, so they're short, quick, well, not quick when I'm writing them, but a good read, mostly inspirational romance, romantic suspense, and sweet romance. And I started writing in grammar school, but I sold my first book in 1993. So I've well past 30 years. I've been with Love Inspired. Next year will have been 30 years, will be 30 years. And I'm the oldest one here probably. And it's nice to be with all these young people who keep me going. And especially these two, they make me tired, but they keep me moving. I'm like, duh, I don't know how to do that. And they show me. And so anyway, I'm here and I enjoyed writing this story with Betsy and Morgan.
And it's so much fun to have you here because I love the energy and the enthusiasm and the heart for other writers that you have. It's such a gift to all of us. And Betsy, you and I have been friends for a number of years. And every time we get together at ACFW, I just love it because your heart is just the sweetest thing. And you're always just so encouraging. So it's so fun to have you back on. But if you want to tell people just a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, I feel the same way about you, Kara. I love connecting with you at ACFW. I wish we could see each other more because you are such a light to and such an inspiration with all of your books. So I write contemporary romance. I really need to recount. I can't remember how many I have now, total novels and novellas. I think I'm around the 27, 28 mark. I know I haven't hit 30, but it's really close. So I did this Christmas book. I had 3 Christmas books in basically a year's time, which was really not on purpose. I got a little sick of candy canes and hot chocolate, but I am currently about to be promoting a 3-book series coming out in 2025 with Sunrise Publishers, and it's the Magnolia Bay series. Very excited about that. So that's been my latest endeavor, and it is not Christmas. So I got a little bit of a break. I got to go to the beach instead of Santa land. So
I love it. And it's easy to think that you can never have too much of a good thing like Christmas, but
right.
White Christmas on repeat all year could get to be a little much. But
It's
Morgan, this is your debut, and you are just, I love every time I get to interact with you at ACFW as well. And when I say ACFW, for those of you who don't know, that's American Christian Fiction Writers, and it's an organization that the 3 of us have been involved in. And one of the ways that we connect across time, but in face to face, which as writers is always a treat. But Morgan, when you come, you're just always so encouraging to everyone that it's easy to forget that you haven't been multi-published, but this is your first, and it's so exciting. So tell us a little bit about who you are.
Sure, yeah. So first of all, Kara was my first hug of conference, and it was a great hug. And I feel like our energy levels are very the same. So it was just like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
So thank you for that hug, Kara, and thank you for the encouragement. It was such a blast. But I'm Morgan Tarpley Smith. I've been pursuing writing for well over a decade, but this is my first published. So every writer's journey is different, and sometimes it takes us longer from just writing, life, just things happening. So I'm really excited to have this collection. And this is our milestone book for us. We're pretty sure that this was Lenora's 100th book, my first, and Betsy's 25th. So it was a really special milestone for us to celebrate all that and to do it together, and especially with our Louisiana roots. So
I love it. And I love it when you get a bunch of writers together to work on a collection. There's something fun. There's just a special energy that comes from working on a collection, because the stories, often when we're writing, it's us alone at our computer, day after day, night after night, beating our head against the computer or the wall or the desk or whatever we can find, when our characters or the words just aren't cooperating. And then you get to do something together like a collection. And sometimes they're very loosely connected. Sometimes they really aren't. But then there are other times where the stories really do gel. And you were telling me that they are connected. So Lenora, how are these stories connected? How did they really come to be?
Well, I think Morgan and Betsy came up with the idea because they hadn't seen a lot of novellas in Louisiana. And so I am not a native Louisianan, but I lived there for 30 years. So I'm a Louisianan. But anyway, when they reached out to me, I'm like, really? I was so excited. And what we did, we're writing a story that's set in a small town based on Natchitoches, where the Christmas festival is held. And I believe Morgan came up with most of the idea, then Betsy, and then I came in, and we wanted it to be about mothers and daughters. So we kind of merged it together. And what we've done that I think is unique, we kept the story going throughout each novella. And so at the end, you knew what happened with everybody, and we're anxious to try to write another one to follow up. But it was so much fun. As I said, they made me tired. I'm like, all of us making me, but it was fun to learn from them things that I didn't know. And I'm sure my elderly wisdom helped them so much, but that's how it got started. And we brainstormed on mostly message. And I finally told him, I said, y'all gonna have to mail me some of this stuff, because this little message stuff I can't read it. So they were kind enough to mail me things that I needed to know, but that's how we got started.
So Morgan, it sounds like you were kind of the impetus for getting this going. How did you, I'm going to put myself in your shoes. So this may not be what you were really thinking, but I know if it were me and I wasn't a well-established author yet, and I'm seeing Lenora Worth over there. How did you get the guts to be like, hey, Lenora, do you want to come be part of this collection with me?
well, it was all Betsy on that front. So the idea for the novella collection came out of an avid readers of Christian fiction Facebook group post. They were posting about they're trying to find Christmas novels or novellas set in all 50 states. And I got tagged in it to say, do you have one, or does somebody have one for Louisiana? And I was like, no, and we couldn't think of any. So I was like, there's an opportunity there, and I would love to write about Louisiana. And so I had the idea for small town contemporary romance novella collection, talked to Betsy. She really liked the idea. And then she said, why don't I ask Lenora Worth? And I went, can we do that? Yeah, I've known her forever, and I think she'll love it. And I'm like, well, Betsy, you asked Lenora. I don't know Lenora at this time, and I know Lenora's name, but go ahead, and that would be amazing. And so Betsy came back and went, yeah, she's in. I went, what?
What?
I said
And
the same
Betsy, isn't
thing.
that like what Christian fiction's like?
Yes, yes, I love it. I love how open everyone is to collaborating and partnering up on projects, because we've all been there. Like, we all remember who helped us get started and who we got to kind of partner with, even if it wasn't in an official set. I've got so many mentors over my almost, 17, 18 years of writing that helped me, and I love to help pay that forward. And I think it's very different in the Christian community than in the, worldly writers groups. It's just a whole different vibe. And that's why I love going to conference and all that every year too.
So this is one of 3 Christian or Christmas collections or novels that you wrote like in quick succession. So what makes this one different for you, Betsy?
This one was definitely different it's like a continuity. So with my other books, I had 2 love-inspired Christmas novels that were loosely connected to each other, same town, cameo characters, but I still had a lot of freedom. But in this one, like Lenora was saying, we had to write, like the first story takes place 3 weeks before Christmas, and then 2 weeks for the middle story, and then the last story is the week of Christmas, and it just is the same story. It just flows. So we each took a character. Someone had the mom, someone had the daughter, someone had the cousin, you know, and then we just kept it going, just picked it right up where the other story left off. So obviously the emphasis is on certain characters for each story, but you're still seeing each other's characters on and off the page a lot, probably a lot more than a typical novella set. So part of that Facebook Messenger that we endlessly sent to Lenora was coordinating, like, okay, is this something your character would say? And helping each other find the voice for those moments where Morgan's character, Mattie, was on the page with my character, Jolene, or, you know, vice versa. So it was just a lot to keep up with, but it made it more fun. So it was maybe a little stressful because there were so many other parts to figure out, and you kind of had to wait on each other a little bit to answer before you could really finish a scene. But we had such a great time. So it was totally worth the little bit of extra effort, you know?
I love that. And in my experience, when I've done those collections, it is more work, but that collaborative aspect is so much fun. It can be magic when it's all working, or it can still be really loose and you're like, okay, that was fine. But when you can really get that coordination happening, I think it's magic as writers, but it's also magic for the readers because they're like, oh my gosh, it's like a continuation and all. And it's just, it can be so much fun.
Well, and it's
But
helpful too, because there was a scene, without giving any spoilers, there was a scene that I was struggling with that I knew was coming up. And I was like, you guys, I don't know what this is going to look like. Like, I'm about to write the scene and I still don't know what it's going to be. And it's got to be kind of important and moving. And like, we'll see what God gives me, because right now I got nothing. And I just kept writing it. And then I was able to celebrate with them and be like, God did it. I got the idea. It's all working out, you know? So I had that kind of moral support that you don't really have when you're writing by yourself, because like you were saying earlier, it's kind of solitary. You're doing it alone, but we got to cheer each other on and create Pinterest boards for everyone's Christmas ball outfits and all of that fun stuff too.
We had fun with the Christmas ball
Love the
outfits.
shoes.
Sure. Yeah, the shoes. Lenora loved the shoes, but I was gonna say too, it really was helpful for me as a debut to be able to work with them on this and kind of verify, like, does this sound okay? Is my character arc okay? You know, like, and they were so gracious to deal with my newbie questions and things that I was freaking out about. So
yeah,
I so
think
appreciate that.
we each had a little meltdown here and there, but the other two would prop us up because I was on deadline with another book too. So I was hurry, hurry, hurry. And when we got our edits back, mine were like the worst, of course. And I'm supposed to know all this stuff, but we got all that straightened out. But there were times when we each needed a little pep talk, and we were there, and it all worked out great.
I was gonna
yeah.
say too, Kara, some of our reviews that have come in about the book is that it reads like a novel. You can either read it, sit down and just do one novella at a time, or you can read the whole thing and it really flows. And so we really glad they got that, because that's what we were shooting for.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, and I think that's really special that was what you were able to accomplish, because that shows the care and intention and just the camaraderie that went into writing the book, which is awesome. So when you think about writing and kind of the journeys that you've all been on, and you're at very different spaces, but you've all been writing for a while, if you could go back in time, what's one piece of advice that you would give yourself back on the first day that you decided, yep, I'm going to be a writer?
You want me to go first?
Yeah, sure, Lenora, you could go first.
I think I would tell myself, and I have told myself this many times, you can do this. This is the one thing you've always wanted to do. This is your dream. But I would tell myself, go for the goal and don't worry about the dream, because the goal is to write a good book. The dream is to become a successful published writer. And I think that's how I got myself through this and made it this far. I focused on the goal while the dream was in the back of my head. And I had certain goals I wanted to meet, and I've met all those goals, salary-wise, bestseller-wise, worked with several different publishers. It's been a blessing, and just stick to your goal and don't listen to the people who tell you can't do it, because if you want to do it, you can do it.
Oh, I love that. How about you, Betsy?
That's so good, Lenora. I love that. I would give myself the same advice that I need to give myself right now on my current deadline, which is to quote my Gen Z teenagers, it's not that deep, like it's just not that deep. It all works out. The deadlines are stressful, but it always works out. When you just buckle down and do what you need to do, you don't have to panic and strive. The Lord has given me more than one holy time warp in my writing career, and He always comes through and we always get it done together. So I would tell baby writer Betsy the same thing I'm telling myself right now is like, it's not that deep. It's all going to work out. You don't have to stress. It'll get done.
I love that. I need that advice right now myself. So that is beautiful advice. And Morgan, what would you tell your younger self 10 years ago?
I would say all the things that y'all said are great. And I would say too that don't fall into the trap of the comparison game, because that will get you every stage you are, no matter what your journey looks like. I mean, I think just when you, especially as Christian writers, our purpose is higher than our genre and our readership and each other, our competition, who's going to hit a list or not. And I just think to keeping that in mind, because we're going to have days where we're just, everything is comparing ourselves to, and why did we not get that contract? Why have we not gotten a contract? Why did this book not sell well? There's sales numbers. It is a business, so that side's always going to be part of it. But just keeping focus on the mission that we all have, the kingdom mission, and just trying to let the numbers and the industry kind of fade in the background where it needs to be, in priority. But that's been hard. And also, I would say for people that are not dealing with the industry yet, I would say learn about the industry as much as you can. Find your niche. Start a Facebook group. I started a Facebook group 5 years ago. I love dual timeline fiction, but I love writing contemporary and historical. I can do both. And so it kind of marries that love. And so join Facebook groups, get involved with avid readers. I'm involved with Inspirational UK Readers group. I'm one of the moderators. So just have fun talking about fiction. Fangirl the authors, because you're going to be there one day. And genuinely do it from a genuine place where you're not trying to gain that relationship, but you're genuinely loving books. And that will really get you far once you do have a book to promote, because people will come out of the woodworks wanting to help promote your books, and it's so appreciated.
Yeah, that's all great, great advice. I love it. So with each of you, when did you first know you wanted to be a writer? Was it something that you just have always known, or did it kind of sneak up on you and one day you were like, I have to write? How did it first evolve for you?
Well, with me, I was in grammar school, and I would get in trouble because I talked a lot. Imagine that. And but this one teacher gave us an assignment. I think it was the fourth grade. She was a really stern teacher, and it was a writing assignment. And I fell in love with it, and everybody else hated it. And so when we turned in our papers, she called me up front, and I thought, well, I'm in trouble again. And she said, I think you have talent, and if you apply yourself, I think you can be a writer one day. And that just did it for me. I'm like, I'm all in. And she
awesome.
suggested a few changes I had made, that needed. She said, you don't need it, because I'd written all this stuff on the front, like all that jazz and things I'd heard. She said, we don't do all that jazz in this class. And I'm like, okay. But anyway, that's what got me started. And all through high school, college, I didn't finish college, but with everything I could grab, take courses on, I did, to advance me to become a writer, a published writer. And I just kept at it. And when we moved to Louisiana, I was in the mall one day and saw people signing, and it was romance writers. And I said, this is what I want to do. And they said, well, come to our meeting. And I joined their RWA local group. And it took a while, but finally, in 1993, after I think I'd been in the group for 10 or 11 years, I finally sold my first book. So
That's amazing.
Yes.
Yeah. Betsy, how did you become a writer?
I was 7 years old, and that was about the time my dad brought home our first family desktop, PC computer. And I just started typing out little stories about a girl and her golden retriever and just plotless things. But that kind of is where I got started. And then I started doing fan fiction without realizing it was fan fiction. I just was like, I want to write a Babysitter's Club book. That sounds fun. I want to decide what they're doing. So I played around with that. But then when I was 18, I was really working on a novel. And my mom and grandmother went in together as kind of a late birthday or Christmas gift. And Dee Henderson, amazing author, Dee Henderson, one of my favorite authors at the time, still is, was offering a heavily discounted editing opportunity, limited spots. And so we got one, and I had Dee Henderson critique my romantic suspense novel when I was 18 or 19 years old. And I learned so much from her. And that's when I think it really solidified, like, could actually do this. Like, I really have a chance here. So I started going to conferences. I met Gail Roper at a conference, and she told me about the ACFW. I started attending, got my agent, Tamala Hancock Murray, and here we are almost 30 books later. So,
Oh, that's amazing. And I love all those moments where there was someone who was established who, poured into you and that made the difference. So Morgan, how about for you?
Yeah, I've always been a storyteller before I could write. So I was 5 and 6 with my little brother, making him act out plays and performing for my mom to tell her stories. And so, but when I was 8, an author came to our very rural Louisiana school, and I'd never met an author before. And I went, that people are authors, like they really are. And so that's when I said, that's what I want to be one day. And didn't really know what to do with that. But anyway, I ended up writing my first novel at 12. It was horribly didn't ever end, but I did it with a friend. So I collaborated for the first project in 7th grade. And so that was really fun, but it taught me, like, hey, this is fun, and I can do this. I did some short stories in high school, and then I went to college in journalism. So I set all the fiction writing aside until I got out of college and was working for a newspaper, and I picked it up again. That was probably about 2009, 2010. And I said, I'm gonna seriously start pursuing this. And I started writing YA, and it took me 2 years to realize that YA was not my voice. And then I got started going to a wonderful small writers conference at ETBU, East Texas Baptist University, in Marshall, Texas. I went there for 3 years before I braved up to go to the big ACFW conference. So just really investing in the craft. My writing partner and I, that really makes a difference, having someone in your court that are on the same kind of level as you, learning. So that really helped a lot. And just putting time in, writing lots of short stories, 'cause that's a really great way to grow the craft and figure out where your voice is. So
I love that. And I love how there are similarities in each of your stories, but yet they're different and unique too. So for each of you, it started really in elementary school or earlier, but then that persistence and that dedication and discipline to keep trying and keep learning and keep growing. So it's been a long journey for each of you. What brings you joy in the process? Because if there weren't moments of joy, you would not still be doing this. So I'm really curious, Betsy, what brings you joy in writing?
I think it's those moments when you feel like you're not even involved and it's just happening, and you're watching all of this go down on the page, and you're laughing or you're teary or you're feeling it. And it's almost like you're just the conduit, like you're not even the one creating it. It's just coming through you. Those don't happen as often as I like, but when they happen, that's where you're just like, this is what it's all about. This is so cool. So those moments are really encouraging to keep going, because those are the moments where I think, okay, if I'm feeling like this, my reader will. And that's what I want. I want that reader experience. I want them to feel hope or encouragement or emotion as they're journeying with my character.
I love that. Morgan, how about you? What brings you joy?
like Betsy said too, those moments are really fun when you kind of blink and go, did I just write that? No, it was God writing it, you know? Or you find yourself being like, why did you just do that? And like, you just wrote that, you know, those are really fun. When your characters, Melanie Dobson, I likes to say, she was washing dishes, talking out loud to somebody. Her husband walks in and responded to something she said to him. Wait, now I'm talking to my characters. Like, so like your characters come alive to you in a way that is weird for most, because if you're not a writer, you don't get it. It's a little strange, but that also is a lot of joy in the story when you know the story's building and you know you're to know the characters. And I would say too, the camaraderie between writers is really awesome. Just it really makes you find joy and keep going, because it was just us sitting with our keyboards, we would be like, I can't do this anymore. Especially with rejections, we all, you know, rejections that still come and disappointments and things. It's just easy to get discouraged. But thank you so much to our reading community and our fellow authors.
Absolutely. Lenora, you've been at this a long time. What brings you the joy?
Well, a lot of what Betsy and Morgan said, I love connecting with the readers. And I know I taught at the college you were talking about in Marshall. I taught there several times, and Betsy and I were like miles apart in Shreveport, and we connected. And here we are, and you, Kara, met you many times, and I love that that writer connection. I call other people my civilian friends, because they don't get that your characters do take over and talk to you, or you're talking to yourself. But what I really love is when readers let me know that my book touched them. Here in Defuniak Springs, where I knew nobody, a woman came into one of the bookstores and told the woman who owns it that I was one of her favorite writers. And she said, well, she lives here now, and she couldn't believe it. And so the bookstore owner got us together, and I surprised her one morning when she came to turn in books, because her husband's an invalid and she can't get out very often. And she was standing there with a note card telling this woman, these are all the books I want from Lenora Worth. And she said, well, why don't you ask her yourself? She's right over there. And this poor little woman, we all started crying, because she was screaming and crying and hugging me, and I was hugging her, and we're all crying. And it was just magic, because I thought, you know, I touched a reader. So
absolutely,
that's what I love. I love that sense of knowing that the stories we tell really do touch our readers, and they bring them joy. I brought her joy because she's in a bad situation with her loved one, and it was just fun for that to happen in a town that I never knew I'd wind up living in. And it just, you know, things like that are great, I think. And meeting these two, meeting you, just a wonderful support system. I have friends I've known for 30, 35 years, and I love that.
Yeah, it is. It's such a special part of it. And again, you know, I'd echo the same thing, you know, just the friendships and the deepness that runs in them. People who you know are just there for you. Yeah. So, okay, last question, and it's a tricky one. Are you a plotter or a pantser or a plantser?
I'm a pantser. I fly into the mist, and then I panic.
I'm a plotter. I really am. I veer away from my original plot a lot, but I do need a good outline to get going.
Yeah.
I'm a detailed plotter, not quite detailed as Sarah Sundin, but I'm her understudy. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, I always thought I was a good plotter because I started with Trisha, and she's not. She is such a pantser that I'm like, oh, I am a plotter. And then I wrote with Sarah, and I was like, yep, nope, I guess I'm a plantser, somewhere in the middle. But it just depends on the publisher, because when you write for Love Inspired Suspense, you have to have pretty much a chapter by chapter, and Heart Song Presents required a chapter by chapter. Nowadays, my publishers don't require that, so I have to do it myself. I have to make myself do it, and that makes it a little easier to be a little more plantser, a little more flexible. I decided it's just a function of when you're going to do your plotting. That's all it is. It's just a question of when. All of us plot. It's just how much do we want to do it up front? So,
True.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. It's always a treat to be with any of you, but to have you all together at the same time is just so much fun. And where can people learn more about each of you? on the internet. So Lenora, what's your website?
It's www.lenoraworth.com. So,
Betsy.
I am BetsySaint.com. There's no period, all run together.
And Morgan.
MorganTarpleySmith.com.
All right, and I will put that in the show notes so everybody can get the correct spelling of Tarpley and Amant. But that's a great place to connect and get the links to where all these lovely ladies hang out online and find out more about their books and all of their writing. But thank you so much for joining me. And the book is A Louisiana Christmas to Remember. And if you are looking for a fun read that will slide you into the Christmas spirit, this is one that will do that for you. So thank you again for joining me today. This has been so much fun.
thank you.
Thank you.